Your soul is always there and waiting patiently and quietly whenever you want to connect with it. You never don't have a soul connection, honestly. The problem is that our ego, we all have an ego. The ego's not bad. It just disconnects us from self. In fact, that's why we don't have peace and happiness in our lives, is because we put the ego in charge of finding peace and happiness. But unless you're lining up with your soul, the ego is looking for more and more and more ways. So the soul is always right there. But here's what I've noticed in my own soul training. The soul's really quiet. It does not interfere in your life. The ego's loud. People have often asked me, how do I know if it's my intuition or my head? Your head's loud. Where your soul, I find, is quiet. And you actually have to create space to hear your soul. Hello, 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 my friends. It's me, Michelle Chalfant. So happy to be here with you today. I have a special show for you. And I have to tell you, I think if you've listened to me at all, you know that I say I follow the energy. I follow my inner nudges. I follow my intuition and my wisdom. I have been feeling the nudge and the knowing lately, which actually we're going to get into today, to do more solo episodes. I realized almost the first 200 shows that I ever did were mostly solo episodes, or a ton of them. And I am feeling this inner desire, knowing, whatever you want to call it, to do more of those. And today is the day I'm going to really start doing more of those. So get ready, buckle in. We're going to be going on a ride and doing some solo casts, I guess, with all of you. But yeah, so today I was inspired because I was on someone else's podcast and they really asked me a great question, which is if someone's really unhappy, first of all, why are people so unhappy these days? And then how do we move into more happiness? What's going on right now? So yeah, so I said, I got off his podcast and I said, that's a really, really great, important question. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today is how do we move into a place of happiness and greater peace even in our lives, regardless of what's going on outside? How do we do that? And I love this term. I've been using it for years. It's living a soul aligned life. But how do we do that? What are the steps to make that happen? And it's so magical, you guys. I can't tell you. It is such a fun way to live, and it changes the game of life completely. So that's what I'm going to be talking with you about today. And yeah, I'm excited to be here with you. Just me, myself, and I. In case I have to say one thing, though, in case you haven't heard, my book is coming out May 6th. I am so excited. I feel like I've been in gestation with a baby for many years. I'm finally having the baby May 6th. It is the adult chair book. This book is, I wish I'd had it, honestly, when I was much younger for my own life. And this is the book that I hope that everyone buys. It will help you to get unstuck, find your power, and truly transform your life. This book is not just all about the adult chair model, and I go in depth as to what that is. Basically, the adult chair teaches you who you are today and then how you got that way. And I go through tons of client examples and experiences and then exercises. It's almost as if you're taking the book will take you on a transformational journey of self into a more empowered, healthy self. So that's part one. Then the whole part two of the book, that's all about the 5 pillars of what you need to do in order to live as a healthy adult, how you need to live. And I break it down. You guys know me by now. If you've listened to me at all, or if you're brand new, the way I think is very simplified. I simplify everything for myself. And that's how I have taught when I teach my coaches in my coaching program, when I have a live event or an online course or live event, whatever I'm doing, I simplify because it just makes more sense to me. So the whole second part of the book is the same way. There are 5 pillars that help all humans live as very healthy adults. And I break down what they are. Again, tons of examples and experiences. So grab your pen and paper, get this book, and it will truly help you to transform your life. And if you happen to be listening to this before April 26th and you get the book, you can come join my free masterclass about the book on April 26th. It's a Saturday, a couple of weeks from today. So anyway, here we go. All right, so let's talk about this. Whew. So why are we so unhappy? And I've had this question again. This guy, I was just on his podcast. He asked me this question and I loved it. Why are we so unhappy when we feel like we have everything, right? And when this person asked me this question today on the podcast, it was really interesting. It gave me, I'm just going to say, when he asked me this question, it gave me a flashback. Over the years, I've probably worked with thousands of people, whether it be my client sessions or, again, I do a lot of events, live events, online events, all the things, coaching program, all of it. And I've had a lot of people ask me this question, but it brought me back to when I had many, many, many client sessions in person. And people have asked me, why am I so unhappy? It doesn't make any sense to me. I've got everything. I've got, again, my partner, my children, the house, the boats, the motorcycles, the multiple houses, the beach house, the mountain house, the whatever. I've got the nice clothes. I've got friends. Why is it that I feel like I have everything and I still feel dissatisfied, unhappy, like I'm still searching for something? I have a lot of people that have asked me that. I still feel like I'm searching, like I don't have enough stuff. I don't know how to stop because logically it doesn't make sense to me that I'm this unsettled in life. So again, people use different words, but I think you probably understand what I'm saying. Like something inside doesn't feel quite right, even though I've got all this stuff out there. And if you're watching me on YouTube, you're watching me point outside of self. It's like out there, I've got all this stuff. I might even be in great shape, right? And a lot of people then focus even on their physical body. So they work out a ton. They might do, and again, I have no judgment toward anybody, but there's like plastic surgery and they got to have the perfect hair, the perfect, all the things, right? So my point is people focus outside of self in order to gain greater peace, greater happiness, greater joy in life. And the truth is, like, sometimes we're really happy with, again, our house or our kids or whatever. But once this is why I don't love the word happy, because I think to me, happy is a spiky feeling. We can't sustain happiness every single day, all day long. We can sustain peace. That's what we want to go for, which is more steady. It's a little bit of a different emotion. But either way, you all know what I'm talking about. So why can't we, though, sustain it? And why is it that we feel so dissatisfied with our lives when we feel like we've got everything? It doesn't make sense, right? So here it is. I've got the answer. It's because we are focusing and attempting to attain or create that greater happiness or greater peace by focusing, here I am again pointing, outside of self. So when we focus out there, we are not tuning in enough in here. And because the answer to finding sustainable peace, joy, happiness is an inside job. It truly is. Just like the old saying goes, who knows how old that thing is, but you've heard that. Happiness really is, it's an inside job, especially sustainable happiness and peace. So what does that exactly mean? What does that mean that I have to connect to myself on the inside? I don't understand. People have said that to me. What does that even mean? To me, it means that we live a soul-aligned life. We have to remember that we are spiritual beings first, humans second. Please let that land for a moment. You are a spiritual being. What in the world does that even mean? It means you are a fragment or an extension of God, of source, of universe, of that thing called unconditional love. You are coming from or an extension of that thing. So think about an octopus. The head of the octopus would be God or unconditionally loving source energy. And you come down here on this planet Earth as a leg of that octopus and take on a human suit. So when you think about yourself in that way, think about that for a moment. Let that land. You are that first. And then you zip up this human suit, like a Halloween costume that you put on temporarily up to, let's say, 100 years, right? And then we leave. So then the way to sustain or find true peace and happiness is actually connecting to that we truly are, which is that soul. The soul is the part of source that takes on that human form. So how do we do that? Let me back up by saying this, though. What is life like when you live a soul-aligned life? I just have to tell you, it is a life where you can sustain peace for such a long period of time. It is a life where you are with people or alone and you still feel okay. You feel that peace and that joy. It is sustainable. It is a life filled with intuition. It is a life filled with, let me say it like this, where you find joy in the simple pleasures. I will look at a hummingbird on my hummingbird feeder and my whole chest feels like it's going to explode. It brings me so much peace. That's what happens when you live a soul-aligned life. You don't need these big things anymore. You don't need the boat and the car. I'm not saying you won't get that or you won't go after that if you want it. That's great if you want that stuff. I'd like to have a beach house too and a mountain house. That's great. But I don't need it to be happy. I don't need it to be peaceful. I don't need anyone around me to feel to feel that peace. And I did not live this life forever. Let me tell you, this is fairly new for me. I'm talking in the last few years. And I've been cultivating it year by year by year, day by day by day. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Because in my experience of living like this, anybody can live like this. But you have to learn how to do it. So let's talk about that today. All right. So then what we want to do, if we are truly these spiritual beings having this human experience, what we want to do is connect to that soul so we can align ourselves with the soul, right? With that beautiful source of energy that you are. We take on these identities and we think, oh, I'm Michelle and I have 2 boys and I have a podcast and I have a business and I have a husband. All those things are true. But I'm so much more than those things. And so are you. You are so much more than your job, than your place in your family. I'm a daughter too, but you know what? I'm more than that. I am this incredible, incredible source of energy, of soul. So how do we cultivate this connection with our soul? Because it feels sort of etheric and it's like out there, like, well, how do we do that? There's so many ways and it's so easy. It just takes some practice and it doesn't take years. I'm going to say this. I almost want to guarantee it. Reach out to me if you practice this for 2 weeks and you do not experience some of these things that I'm talking about today. In 2 weeks' time, if you don't experience this, hit me up. I want to talk to you because I really, truly believe it takes 2 weeks or less for you to start realizing, hold on a second. I'm finding greater peace. Hold on a second. I'm having some weird realizations that maybe I am this soul having this human experience on earth. So here we go. Here's the truth. Your soul is always there and waiting patiently and quietly whenever you want to connect with it. You never don't have a soul connection, honestly. The problem is that our ego, we all have an ego. The ego's not bad. It just disconnects us from self. In fact, that's why we don't have peace and happiness in our lives. It's because we put the ego in charge of finding peace and happiness. We say to our ego self, unconsciously, of course, we don't know we're doing this typically until we bring in consciousness that goes, wait, I'm going to do this in a different way. But if we just go by our default thinking, our ego will say, hey, maybe if you're in a relationship, you'll find peace. Let's go find you a new partner. Let's have kids. Let's get a puppy. Let's get a cat. Let's move. Let's do all those things. That's an ego-led life. Not to say that your soul sometimes won't nudge you to do those things, but unless you're lining up with your soul, the ego is looking for more and more and more ways. Maybe you become a workaholic. You think if I can just make more money, and you'll find money. No matter how much I make, it's not enough. It's still not enough. Still not enough. You're like, what is going on? I thought if I made $100,000, I'd be happy. Now I'm making 120. I'm still not happy. Maybe I need 150. That's what I mean by ego, right? It's not bad. So many people think an ego is bad. It's not bad. We just don't want the ego driving us. We don't want the ego in charge of driving our car. We want to be driving the car. We want to put the ego in the back seat, or at least in the passenger seat. So the soul is always right there. But here's what I've noticed in my own soul training. The soul's really quiet. It does not interfere in your life. The ego's loud. People have often asked me, how do I know if it's my intuition or my head? Your head's loud. The ego's loud. Do this. You're stupid. Why would you make that mistake? Go after this. You need a new boyfriend. You need a new girlfriend. You need to have a baby. Loud, 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 loud. Where your soul, I find, is quiet. And you actually have to create space to hear your soul. And your soul, people also have asked, does it actually speak? How do you know that your soul's talking to you? You will have an awareness. You will have a download. It's just sort of lands in your awareness. And all of a sudden you say to yourself, where did that come from? How do I know to do that? Why do I feel so inspired all of a sudden out of left field? That is your soul. It is quiet and it speaks to you in the space of quiet. How do we create the space where it's quiet? It doesn't mean meditation necessarily. It does not mean meditation. However, it could. Wayne Dyer used to talk about when you meditate, there's something called the gap. That's the moment in meditation where your words stop, or your thoughts stop, and it's the gap of space or silence. And that's then when you might have that impression, the download, the words that come through from your soul. But there are many other ways too. You don't have to meditate. I can go for a walk in the woods or just down my street even. And if I'm not lost in thought about the rest of my day, what I'm going to have for dinner, what I did last weekend, guess what? And I'm really present. That's when the thoughts or the downloads or the knowings come in. In fact, to be perfectly honest with you, when I finished the last podcast with this guy, I said, oh my gosh, I need to sit down and record a podcast. I feel really inspired right now. And I got quiet and I heard these words, go for a walk. Because I usually take about a 10 or 15 minute break. And that's the perfect, I have a walk down my street all the way to the end and back. It takes me about 10 or 15 minutes with my dog. And I heard those words, go for a walk. In other words, get quiet and fall into the space. And I said, oh, but I'm so inspired. I really just want to create right now. And I kept hearing, go for a walk. And I got to tell you something. I stood up from the podcast and I thought, oh, I'm going to do a podcast on, it was something else. It wasn't what I'm talking about today. And then I went for my walk. I don't take my phone. I'm not on the phone. I'm not thinking about anything except the moment. I'm walking, feeling the road under my feet. I'm listening for the birds. I'm very in the moment. And I'm creating that space as I'm walking. And guess what? The idea for this show today came in. And it was like, wait, the guy asked me this question too. And I'd forgotten about it when I stood up from the podcast. That was a little download from my soul. And I said, oh, that one feels so good. I'm going to do that one. That's what I mean. So you can walk. You can sit in meditation if you'd like. But you can be moving around is my point. It doesn't mean you've got to be in your meditation pose and meditating for 2 hours to connect to your soul. Do something you love. You can be gardening. How many of you, and I hear this from tons of people, you have your meeting. Some people say, oh, I have my meeting with God in the shower. When we're in the shower, oftentimes we have the gap or the space that opens and downloads. I have tons of downloads in the shower. Why is that? I'm focusing on washing my body and doing all the things. And as I'm doing that, I'm not thinking about future or past. I'm right in the moment. And that's when all the downloads can come. That's when my soul chimes in and starts to talk to me or gives me impressions or gives me nudges to do this or that. So that's another way. But the main point here is you have to slow down. And I'm guilty of this. Let me tell you what, I have this oh my gosh, I have so much to do. I have a lot going on with my business, my company. I have a podcast, I have a membership, I have a online courses. I'm planning 4 live events this summer. There's a lot going on. And this book PR is just crazy busy. So I will wake up in the morning and say things like, oh, I don't have time to do that. And I'm like, that's my ego talking. And I'll say, yes, we do. We always have time to go for a walk. We have time to take breaks because those, believe it or not, no matter how busy we are, those are the moments when our soul comes through. We have to make sure that we're creating that space. So the more that we continue to connect to the soul, you're going to find that emptiness, loneliness, disconnected feeling, unhappiness, lack of peace starts to fill up with something else. And you're going to find, oh my gosh, I do have more peace. Why do I feel so settled? It's because you're spending more time living soul aligned or connecting to your soul. And again, it doesn't take, I don't mean to do this hours a day. It takes moments a day. Let me go over a few more ways to do that. So we have to slow down. And people ask me how long do I need to be doing this? I'm not good at this, blah, blah, blah. I love something I'll call micromoments. So can you spend a minute once a day? Start with that, where you're sitting outside or sitting by a window. Look out at nature if you can. But if you can't, just sit on the couch. Just sit there, light a candle, light some incense, and just relax for a minute. Don't look at your phone. That's the problem with our phone, is that it creates a disconnection from the soul. The phone creates a disconnection from the soul. It creates a distraction and it keeps us solidly in the ego state. Our ego is, checking texts, checking emails on one of the apps, looking at social media, whatever it might be doing. And then we get lost in comparison mode and all this stuff. The ego doesn't know how to sit in silence. That's not its job. The ego, remember, which we call the adolescent chair, is here to live in the future or the past in order to keep you safe. It's scanning out and trying to predict the future and also evaluating and taking notes on what happened in your past and then trying to keep you safe in the moment. The problem is it does not live in the moment. It doesn't live there. That's where your soul exists. That's where your adult exists. So we've got to learn how to connect there. And something that we can do in order to live in the moment is to learn how to sit in the uncomfortableness of the moment. So many of us are very uncomfortable in the moment. We walk in the house, we immediately turn on the TV. We go for a walk and we have our phone on. We are listening to something. Can you go for a walk? Start out small, like a few minutes, 5 minutes. And not listen to a podcast or not jump on the phone. Walk in your house and don't turn on the TV. What if you were to spend time with just yourself? That's hard for so many of us. I was someone that used to walk in and turn the TV on just so there's noise in the house. And now it's so weird to walk in and have the TV on. And I used to be someone that had that TV on all the time. Like it was just sort of noise in the background. But I realized it's distracting me from myself. It's noise. It's distracting me. So I'm not saying to do anything extreme. I want you to move into these things slowly. So micro moments, 1 minute, 2 minutes a day, where you're sitting and just being with you. Start to get curious. A lot of people say, I'm very uncomfortable on the inside. I don't know what to do with my emotions. So I find myself distracting with the phone, with television, with food, with alcohol, with whatever. That's a big, big, big part of learning how to live soul aligned, is that we want to learn how to get comfortable in our uncomfortableness. How to get comfortable in our uncomfortableness. So how do we do that? We've got to learn how to sit with ourselves when we don't feel right, when we feel anxious, when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel angry, when we feel sad, when we feel grief. What we want to do in order to, and people say, I just want it to go away. Well, you want to make it go away? You got to turn toward it. You have to go inside instead of looking again outside of self to make that stuff go away. We want to instead turn toward it and be with it. So in the adult chair book, I talk about so many things with the pillars, which are how do we feel our emotions? Like so many people over the years are like, I don't know how to do that. You start with curiosity and you take it slow and you get curious about, you don't even need to know what the name of the emotion is, but can you get curious and feel into the body? I feel a tight little something in my stomach. So be with it, sit with it, let it be there and watch what happens, experience what happens. It will move. And guess what? It might expand first and get more intense and just stay with it. And then you'll watch it go away. You'll feel it move out of your system. Remember, you got to remember this again. We're energy beings. And what's happening when we have an emotion that is what we would call negative, like sadness or grief or whatever it might be, frustration, overwhelm, there's a disruption. Think about it's like a blob in this beautiful energy flow that's flowing, like a river that's flowing. It's a little blob of energy that's stuck in this beautiful river of energy that's flowing through us. So what we want to do is stop, put our attention on it, say, okay, I can be with this. I've got a knot in my stomach. I feel like I might cry. I feel angry, whatever the heck it is. It doesn't matter. Sit with it. Be with it. You can close your eyes or leave them open and just breathe, but you're not pushing it away. You're being with it. It's like you're holding holding someone's hand. You're not doing anything with it. It knows what to do. It just needs your attention. And you'll watch and feel it move through you because you're an energy and this is just an energy. It needs your attention to move. That's it. That's it. And then when you do that, you're able to again reconnect back to self, reconnect back to that soul part of who you are. So that's something we have to learn how to do. And we, again, just get curious and watch it move. It will move through you. I promise. Again, I've worked with people for so many years. I've never sat with someone that had an emotion that did not move through them. Sorry. Never, not once. Oftentimes people need someone to witness them. They need someone to be with them when they're feeling the emotions. I am someone that really appreciates that. Sometimes I'll just call my friend on the phone, or I'll say to one of my friends or my sister or my cousin or my husband, and I'll say, hey, I'm going through something. This is what I need. And again, I don't know what you need. Only you know what you need. And what I need may not be what you need, but find out what you need when you do feel something inside. Would it feel comforting to have someone just witness you? Not fix you, witness you. So you have to remember when we need someone to sit with us, we have to basically do what I call the setup. We instruct them as to what we need them to do. It's just a basic boundary. So for example, I'll say to my husband, hey, I need you to just sit with me. I'm feeling some emotion coming up, emotion or emotions. Can you just be with me? Now, he did take some training like most humans because most humans are wired to fix immediately. Like, I gotta fix this. We'll start talking about something or crying or something's coming up for us. And then what do you know? The other person goes, oh, you shouldn't feel that way, or, oh, you'll be fine. And they want to fix it. So that's why we want to instruct people outside of us to just sit with us in our emotion. And we have to let them know, hey, I might cry, I might get upset. It's okay. What would help me more than anything is if you just sit with me. That would be amazing. And then the other person goes, oh, okay. Thank you. Like, people want to know how they can help us. So we need to let them know. Just do this. You can do this on the phone. I do this with my friend. I'm like, hey, I've got something coming up. Can you just listen? Absolutely. Yes. She'll say, great. Here we go. And I'll let her know this feels really intense. I'm just warning you. Here it comes. Great. But again, what I'm doing is I'm allowing these emotions to flow through me so I can get back into the space of my soul and stay soul aligned. And these are some practices, again, that the more you do these things, the more you're going to find you're comfortable in the space where your soul exists, right? The other thing and the last thing is start paying attention to everything around you. Because let me tell you what, my friends, we are not alone. We are being Our soul is connected to other spiritual beings. And let me tell you, they are here to help us. They want us to be soul aligned. They're guiding us to be soul aligned, but they don't interfere in our lives. So we need to create that space in order to feel guided by not just our soul, but other beings too. How do we know that they exist, right? I encourage you to do this. Ask for evidence that you're not alone and that you do have a soul and you have spiritual beings around you that are trying to guide you down this path. And say, I want some signs. You will start noticing that the clock is 222, 333, 444, 555. You will start noticing that the song that you're singing in your head is suddenly playing on the radio when you get in the car. How weird is that? I have to say, I'm throwing out the term coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences at all anymore because the truth of it is everything is synchronistic, meaning it's all divinely inspired and aligned with us. It is for us every single time. So this whole idea that just the other day, it was so cool. I went to work out and I said, I got to run by the grocery store really, really fast. I run into the grocery store. I grabbed a couple things for dinner. And as I'm driving toward the grocery store, I thought, this is so weird. I feel like I'm going to see my sister today. That's interesting. I get to the grocery store. I'm looking around. I'm like, don't see Nicole. Okay, whatever. I'm walking out of the grocery store with my little cart and all my groceries. And who has parked literally, didn't even see that I was there, right next to me in the parking lot was my sister. She pulls right up and I pull up with my cart and I said, well, that's interesting. Here you are. I kid you not. She gets out of the car and says, oh my God, I cannot believe that you are here. She goes, I just thought about you the whole drive to the grocery store and I knew I was going to see you. Like I had the same feeling. So, you know, mental telepathy is definitely a thing. If you have not heard of the telepathy tapes, go check it out. It is a true thing. And it is the way our souls communicate and conspire with each other for us. So that's not a coincidence. That was a synchronistic moment, as everything is. So pay attention. There's no randomness in the universe. That's impossible. That's like saying how random that the sun came up today at the exact same time as yesterday, or 1 minute difference from yesterday. Or it's so weird that they can predict the moons and the tides and all the things. Everything is divinely inspired and right on time, just as you are. So that is how we live a life that is, again, and I want you to understand this, it is a life, yes, filled with peace and more happiness because we're connecting inside. We're reconnecting with our true self, which is the soul aligned self. It is the part of us that is filled with joy, happiness, inspiration, joy, intuition, all the things. Your soul is right there, right inside of you. We've got to learn how to turn toward that and start connecting to that. And when we do that, it's very interesting. The ego part of us starts to get healthier. We need an ego to live on the planet. It's part of our life experience. It's part of our schooling here. You know, we're all in soul school down here trying to learn and experience and grow through every experience we have. And we also have an ego. Its job is to create an identity separate from source, you know, separate from God, so that I can say I'm Michelle and you're your name. But what has happened is if we didn't have parents that taught us how to stay connected to ourselves, and most of us didn't, no shame on them, but they didn't know any better. We then live a life more, ego driven, meaning it's looking for happiness and peace outside of self. So it's just now time to turn towards self, deeply inside of self. And that's where we find this magical part that we call our soul. And that's how we live a soul aligned life. And when we do this, holy moly, the peace in your life is sustainable and it will continue to grow. So start turning inward and your magic will start happening in your own life. Okay. That's it, my friends. I would love to hear your experience with this. And remember, I gave you 2 weeks. So let me know how it goes. You got 2 weeks. And if you have not experienced some synchronicities, hit me up. I'm serious. I want to hear about it. I don't believe you. because I know how these souls work. I've been doing this work for a little while now, and our soul wants to connect with us. I kid you not. That absolutely does. It wants to connect with us. It wants to guide us, but it won't get in the way. It can't get in the way of the ego. The ego's got to get out of the driver's seat, and we want to put our soul right there that's connected to the higher self. That's how we want to exist on this planet, and it will lead to so much more peace and joy and happiness. All right. If you missed the beginning of this, don't forget, head to theadultchair.com and get yourself the Adult Chair book. Yes. If you want to get in the masterclass, just head to theadultchair.com/book and you will be able to join the masterclass it's a free masterclass all about the adult chair on April 26th. But if you are listening to this after that date, you can buy the Adult Chair book anywhere books are sold. All right, my friends, thank you so much for being with me today. I love you all, and I'll see you right here next week.